Sauce, HANA success. Thank you so much today. We're going to have an exciting web, but first, housekeeping items should be muted throughout the webinar. I want to let everyone know that at the end of today's discussion, we'll be answering a few of the questions, closing thoughts. So additional questions, please submit Q&A chat box for platform. We'll have Netapp special to answer them through the webinar. So with that, let's begin the SAP HANA success. Introduce the speaker. So I'll kick it off with my name's Scott Sinclair, with Enterprise Strategy. For those of you who may with Enterprise Strategy Group, we're an IT analyst firm with a heavy focus on strategy. We cover a gamut of IT technology, familiar with us, and technical validations out there, but excited to be here and be part of it with two brilliant speakers on SAP HANA. Today by Vilka Systems. He's an SAP consultant and all-around. And then as we're also joined by Geringer from Netapp, brilliant guy, tights into what the world is experiencing with SAP out there in production level environment. Now, from an agenda, we're going to be covering a whole bunch of great topics, really interesting. I'm going to kick it off and real quick, an overview based on some of ESG on the state of business and how that's driving in an infrastructure modernization across multiple industries for the globe. That's really just going to set the stage. Look at an actual case study between Netapp and Arvado SAP HANA. Then that's going to open it up to a conversation and really just the goal is to really understand and create insights that you can do with your HANA transitions and migrations. And then we'll follow it up with some thoughts and common questions. So without ado, let's get into the conversation. Let's kick it off. So let's talk digital transformation. Now I know the term gets used a ton, and some of you listening may actually be tired of it, frankly. But digital transformation is a real. We've continued to see the rise of new initiatives fueling business. Here in this research, we see nearly every organization, 86% of IT decision makers agree we do not embrace digital transformation. We're going to become a less competitive, less effective organization. And given the current business climate, digital initiatives have become even more critical in finding ways to engage with customers, as well as new ways to drive efficiency out of business operations. And I think that's really where businesses think digital transformation is. How do I leverage data to become a strong company? And how do I leverage data to engage with customers and serve them better? And on that, when we ask IT decision makers, okay, what does digital transformation mean to you? What's the point of these digital initiatives that fuel investment and create all these new work hours? What we see is, in terms of answers, the top answer is we need to become more efficient. 55% say we need to become a more efficient business. The number two most common answer is we need to drive a better customer experience. And then rounding out the top five, we see things like leveraging data for more data to develop data-centric products, or leverage data to get new insights to develop new innovative products, or possibly develop new business models. But if we extrapolate this out and think about SAP HANA, well, when I think about where businesses leverage that technology, it's about becoming more efficient as a company, leveraging insights to create efficiencies, and then leveraging those efficiencies to deliver that better customer experience. So SAP HANA is essentially at the core of what companies look to do with data. And we see this as well in terms of overall initiatives. So when we ask IT decision makers, what's at the top of your priority list? Improving business insight with applications, with databases such as SAP HANA is a top priority. 71% say data strategic and can lead to a competitive advantage. Over half, the number one most common answer of organizations when we ask them, what are you leveraging public cloud infrastructure services to do? It's for business intelligence, understanding, getting insights off of data. And this number actually increases, this 51% number actually increases to 71% for mature digital firms. We also see improving data analytics for real-time business intelligence as a top 5 driver of technology spending. It's number 3 overall in our study. And then in addition, when we look at database workloads such as SAP, nearly a third of organizations identified them to be a top driver of data growth. So all in all, from the research that we do at ESG, what we're seeing is these digital initiatives are about how do we leverage insight from data to become a better company. Companies are investing in this, and now with the new line of sight to an end of support deadline to forcing really prioritizing, I guess is probably a better word, the SAP HANA migration. I think this is an excellent time to really talk in and really understand the secret sauce to SAP HANA migrations. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe, who has some excellent insight into a case study on doing a SAP HANA migration. Joe, why don't you take us away?
Yeah. So thanks, Scott, and thanks everybody for having me. We've seen that there's so much going on in the IT and in the world of SAP especially, and you can't really just sit there and wait being the IT of your company. Like the business will really force you, like it has always forced you, but it will force you to move. And let's see from one of our customer stories what we've done there. And the case at hand was the Handaflex AG. It's a German-based company, but with international operations. And the challenge at hand was that they haven't invested that much in their IT for the last year. So they were coming from very old operating system, old database, big fragmented data. And they were in need to really innovate in this area, mostly due to the reasons you pointed out, Scott. Like they were forced to get more innovative with their IT, not to have IT just as a pure provider of a service, but more or less like an enabler for new services. And so they were searching for ways to really get the IT into the next generation, to phrase it this way. And so what we did there was a complete change of the operating system of the database. We switched from an on-premise data center to the Azure cloud, and we brought the SAP HANA database in place, not the S4 version, but at the moment just the HANA database, but to have this already in place to go to the S4 in the near future. And this was done in a very, very short time frame. So from the start of the project to the end, we had roughly 3 months to get everything set up. And this can only be done when you involve really, really good people. Best case, you have people who have already done this, and you really need really proper planning, because in most projects, proper planning will lead to good performance. But as long as you're working with short time frames, it's really about getting the right people there. And the right people in this case were Netapp and Avato Systems. So, and let's see a little bit, just a small glimpse what's under the hood of this case study. So we used Azure Netapp files mostly due to the flexibility it offers us or has offered us and still offers in this project. First of all, we were able to scale up and down in seconds when it came to, first of all, of course, size, but as well performance. We were able to increase the performance during the migration, to have more power during the migration in critical phases, and then just reduce it back once the migration was done and we came to the normal workload. And as well, the snapshot feature was very, very important for us to have the possibility to take backups just in seconds. And it even saved us a couple of days due to a misconfiguration during the migration, because we were able to just revert the database from a snapshot and not to really have run more or less tape backup or whatever we would have taken instead of the snapshot. And again, the proper planning and testing is so important. We as Avato did engage in very, very early talks with Netapp. We had talks with the product management and guys from the engineering. And so we really knew from the start of what we want to do and how we want to achieve it. And as well, testing is always important. So in this case, we developed 1,200 test cases just for this migration, which were all run in this 3 months time window. And so, again, like the main message is like get the right guys involved, and get your architecture right, and your project hopefully will be such a success like the HandaFlex case was.
Thanks, Joe. I think that's an excellent background for our conversation and really gives nice context. And as you were talking, it kept reminding me of the 5 Ps that they teach you in school, right? Proper planning prevents poor performance. I can't believe I got all that out without stumbling over the words. It's a little bit of a tongue twister, but it's very powerful. SAP HANA, though, drives across multiple. If you think about it, it fuels so many different line of business organizations, and IT's at the center. It's a huge project for many of these companies. And if I think about it, there's probably tons of organizations out there that really haven't put a ton of, updates, or they've been running on existing SAP. They've probably been doing updates, but they've been running on this existing SAP platform for a while. And there's value in transitioning to SAP HANA, but it's complexity and risk is involved quite a bit. Where do organizations start? And Joe, because since you just gave us that nice insight into the case study, let's start with you. Where should organizations start on this journey?
Yeah, first of all, we do see the desire for organizations to do like more things like in one change, and not to have like just one change, like just go to HANA or just go into the cloud or just introduce Azure Netapp files, to just name a few. What we see in most projects is that there's already a kind of like couple of things that piled up which need to be done. And the good thing is like SAP offers you the option to do a couple of things just in one step. So it's called the DMO. So you are able to switch to HANA as a database. You are able to move your systems from your on-premise data center to the cloud, or maybe to new hardware in your data center. You're able to switch the operating system, and all in one step. So this is one thing you always have to keep in mind. So it's possible to do. And once you figured out the way you want to go, the next thing is to get your architecture right. So you really need to focus on you're going from what you want to achieve. You need to get back to the drawing board and then decide, okay, what is the right technology for me? And then get your architecture based on this. And it's such a big ecosystem building around HANA. So it's not only the database, but like going back to what you said, like it's just like a couple of guys want to have like business intelligence, not just data. And so the HANA comes along with stuff like the analytics cloud. So you can connect your HANA to the cloud of SAP and run some queries or some calculations in the HANA cloud. Or you can have like the enterprise threat detection, which enables you to have like even analytics in regards to possible threats for your IT operations run into your HANA base. And there's so much you can pile into this one change, or you can put into this one change. But yeah, the first thing is to really get right, okay, what do I want to do, and start from there.
Yeah, yes, I think so, Joe. I'm seeing a number of customers, with the move to HANA S4, they're looking at new capabilities and trying to understand how that's going to improve their business. And they have so many deployment options, right? They can do the simplest, just buy software as a service, all the way down to the on-prem with all of their environments built. And some people do hybrids, of course, right? So what we're seeing is more and more choices that the customer needs to make. And those choices have, integration challenges. So, we have a lot of customers coming to us saying, what are other customers doing? And, your mileage may vary, your choices are fairly varied. So we see customers, all across the board with how they're deploying that architecture, right? So there are a lot of options for them.
Thanks, Mike. And, I couldn't help but thinking about one of those options is shifting, and I want to focus a little more intently on the cloud piece. We see in our research at ESG that organizations are 4 times more likely to consider themselves cloud first than they are data center first. And when I think about the infrastructure demands of workloads such as SAP, we have some data on that. So, the top needs, which really shouldn't surprise anybody watching, are performance, security, and reliability. So when you work, and Joe, I think I'll start with you. When you work with organizations that are doing this SAP HANA migration, how can we make sure that we achieve these capabilities from cloud infrastructure?
Yeah, right. Like cloud is not like for the developers only. So like nowadays clouds are enterprise ready. But still, you have to pick wisely. So again, it comes back to the architecture. And then from the big portfolio the cloud providers will offer you, like whether you go to Amazon, whether you go to Azure, whether you go to Google, or like even pick some exotic ones like the Alibaba cloud or whatever, they will offer you a huge variety of different options technology-wise. And then you have to make the right choices. For example, Azure Netapp Files, like it's an important decision you have to make. Like you can go with traditional premium disk, for example, when talking about MS Azure. It's fine, it's supported, but like the Azure Netapp Files, for example, will like give you some kind of features, will give you like better performance, whatever it is. You have to really take care of getting your priorities straight, and then like see what the technology or what the aims you want to achieve, and then you have to see the technology to like to say it best, like to have the technology which best like supports the aims you want to have. And again, it's all about the architecture.
And thinking about that architecture, if I think about it, one of the big things that we see is, especially within cloud, is there's so much evolution happening. Everything's changing so quickly. Are there ways that strategies or things organizations can do to keep pace with how quickly technology is changing in cloud environments?
Yeah, right. Yeah, first of all, you should always keep in mind this, like borrowed from the software development, this loose coupling design pattern. So always try to think of your architecture as a composition of small building blocks, and then like have everything interacting with each other over like well-defined interfaces. So this will give you huge flexibility to exchange parts of your architecture later on once the development comes in. Like the cloud will offer you more services. You will switch some services to software as a services, which were like monolithic softwares at first. And so just keep in mind to always think of, okay, every part of my architecture might change in the future. And the other thing is connect with guys from the companies, like try to engage in talks with the product development of Netapp, of Microsoft, of Amazon, whatever cloud provider you choose, and try to understand what is their portfolio going to be in the next year, in the next 5 years, and then already try to like a little bit work together with them to get your architecture moving along. So you won't have this architecture set and then like define for the next 5 years. You have to like really think from the start that this will change over the next years constantly.
Yeah, I really like that concept of change. I think that's something that, is more, there's so much focus on it now, but it's so essential to IT architecture planning is expect change. And thinking of that, one of the big promises of cloud is this ability to scale up, scale down. I think you mentioned in the case study. What does that mean for these SAP landscapes?
Most of the time what we see is that there's not that much of scalability in the application server layer. So most of the SAP systems do like have a change workload most of the time from day to night it could be, but this is already already solved by other mechanisms often offers by SAP, but you won't like really have a couple of application servers coming up during the day and going to sleep in the night. But what we do see is the need of flexibility in the database level. And first of all, the size, of course, is a topic. Like you want to like build some kind of sandbox systems and like turn it down the next day. This is, of course, a thing you should always have in mind, like how flexible I am in regards to the size. And the other thing is what we see is the flexibility in regards to performance. For example, like you have a couple of systems connected and you have like data loads during the night, which like are really, really performance hungry. And then you can just have, for example, with Azure Netapp Files, you can just add more performance during the night to not like come out of like a time frame. Say you have like 5 hours for data load, you can add more performance to ensure that you will always have this data load in the 5 hours. And especially when it comes to migrations, this is very, very critical task. Like everybody who's done a SAP migration knows that there's so much time consumed just by loading the data into the database again once it's migrated. And so like you can really enhance those topics when you have the flexibility to add more performance in the storage layer. Yeah.
And you know, Joe, I'm seeing a lot of our large enterprise customers want to take advantage of being able to create additional landscapes during parts of their, you know, deployment or implementation of SAP when they're trying to load that data, when they're trying to test out new business processes. You know, with a traditional on-prem system, they kind of have to make trade-offs with traditional infrastructure hardware. It's not that easy to create and spawn off landscapes, but with Netapp's capabilities and couple that with cloud and all the infrastructure on demand, customers can run many, many more landscapes during different parts of their SAP implementation, and at the end, when they get to production, pare it down to what they actually need. So it's not only the scaling up or scaling down of the servers, but it's increasing or bursting the number of landscapes. That we're seeing some of that as well, and the cloud is really helping, whether they're an on-prem deployment and they just want to burst landscapes to the cloud. You know, they can take advantage of our data fabric to move stuff around and support them with landscape refresh or system copies. So we're seeing a lot of that of the very largest customers, where they have a lot of basis people on a deployment team, and the more flexibility with the landscapes they can have, the more effective they can make their team, right?
You know, Mike, I really want to focus on that with, you know, a follow-up, because, you know, to me, that's so important. What we're seeing in our research and the conversations I have is, you know, we've talked about data growth for decades, right? But what's really changing now is data is continuing to grow, but so many, you know, it's being used and leveraged in so many different ways. And new line of business teams are spinning up saying, well, I need access to this database, or I need access to this. I have a new charge to go investigate this new thing, and I need that quickly. And so if you think about spinning up, you know, other copies of SAP for things like sandbox training, QA, all these other aspects, you know, it's all time consuming. Often it falls on the IT organization that's often overtasked already to help fuel all these line of business teams. How do we simplify and accelerate these activities? You know, this is kind of to both of you guys, but Joe, I don't know if you want to kick us off.
Yeah, like first of all, Azure will offer you like the functionality you already know from your Netapp system on-premise as well in the cloud. Plus, you will have some kind of nice features. I mean, like you already had the API in the ONTAP, and now comes the API in the cloud, which like gives you the power to integrate more stuff into your hopefully already existing like cloud optimization frameworks. So there are a couple of things going on, and most of the work goes to have like all of your infrastructure coded. And so what Netapp offers you in the cloud goes right in hand. So you are able to create snapshots, create clones or whatever, just using this cloud APIs. Azure will Netapp you and integrate it with all your other cloud optimization frameworks you already have in place. So this will like really not only like get a little bit work from your IT stuff, but will offer you complete new ways of doing your IT.
Yeah, and Netapp has been a long time partner with SAP. You know, going back years and years, we had an acceleration product called SnapStamp Manager for SAP, and allowed basis admins to do their own backups, their own kind of system refreshes. And we've ported that into our new cluster data on tap with a plug-in to landscape management, or Llama. So, you know, what we're finding is if a basis team has to depend upon the storage team to set them all up and help them do a refresh, they do probably a lot less refreshes than they would ideally like to do. So empowering that application user to be able to do their own, they can decide, you know, is it worth for my development cycle to do a refresh? And the ability for them to take, you know, ad hoc data protection copies during their development cycle without having to, you know, engage the storage team is fantastic to them. And that's long been, you know, Netapp's design when it comes to applications, is to take the application owner and let them accelerate and control, you know, their environment. So we have those same tools today, whether you're in the cloud or you're on-prem, right? So you can accelerate or put the control into the basis admin's hands, right?
Yeah, yeah. All that makes sense. You know, businesses right now, you know, I talked about, you know, digital initiatives in the digital era, but IT has moved from where it needs to be more than just ensuring service availability, right? There's a speed element, because the delivery of these digital services and things like SAP HANA help fuel business opportunity. And I do want to shift gears a little bit and focus on the migration challenge, because I think that is so front and center to what we're talking about. And you know, when I think about, you know, doing one of these migrations, you know, there's things like, you know, we can lift and shift, which is fraught with risk, or we can, you know, update the app and make changes and modifications, which may also be, you know, fraught with risk, or but also require a lot of effort. You know, SAP HANA is that, when I think about that migration, there's a lot going on. You're talking about a technology move. You're also talking often about a underlying foundation move. You know, Mike, I want to turn it over to you. We've heard a lot from Joe. You know, kind of walk us through this. How do we build a migration strategy for SAP HANA?
Yeah, what I look at this is it's more of it's a journey, right? There's, and it's a transformation, right? That there are very few people doing, you know, lift and shift with the, you know, pending. I have to be at, you know, S4 HANA, you know, within the foreseeable future. Many organizations are looking at the options available to them in cloud, and they're doing some really serious re-architecture to see what additional business value can I get out of this by, you know, applying more or different SAP modules. So it's a pretty complex journey, and you can try to go it on your own and go down the steps in a fairly serial fashion, and then discover what you need to decide as you're making the journey. Or you can engage in, you know, people who have made that journey already and try to get some advice. So, you know, I'm in the services innovation team at Netapp, and we've helped a lot of customers do this, and we see the journey kind of this way, starting as a strategy and then trying to determine exactly what all the architectural components are, right? And then build that data fabric to get the information to where it needs to go. Some deployment, you're actually going to go into, you know, your data protection, and then you're going to want to expand your landscapes, right? Most people are going to start with a sandbox, and as their journey goes along, they have a picture, a Visio diagram of where they're going. But as we as we go through that, there are implications of choices they make early on. So, we like to engage with our customers as early as they feel comfortable engaging with us. Some customers come to us with a strategy already ready, and they're saying, "Hey, let's help us to deploy some of this." Some customers say, "Hey," and whether it's us, whether it's your SI, whether it's Joe, right? You need to probably engage someone who's journey before, because there's a lot of decisions to make, and as everyone knows, your early decision can, left or right, can change your overall outcome, right? How long it takes you to get to the destination and how costly. So in these transitions where people are trying to do so much, engaging with organizations that have done this before, that can support, lead, whatever, is pretty important, right? So.
It's funny listening to everything you're saying. Reminds me of, I used to have this old boss that would say things like, well, people don't understand how tough this is. What we're trying to do is we have a car driving down the road 60 miles an hour, and while it's driving, we're trying to change it into a plane. And, I think that's a great analogy for organizations as they think about these SAP HANA migrations, right? The business is running on this. We need to transform it, but somehow you can't just tell the company to shut down for 6 months while all this happens. And doing that, when you think about something this important and this complex, it's something, it probably makes sense to engage people that this isn't their first time doing it, that have gone through this process, that understand where the pitfalls are and can drive and go through it, like both of you guys. So engaging with someone that has done this before is obviously essential, or seems obvious to me. What are some other more crucial factors that organizations should think about when starting this SAP journey, SAP HANA journey?
Well, I mean, they have to decide, what new features they want, what their outcome needs, what their desired outcome needs to be, right? And try to lay that all out before they, it's like the measure twice, cut once, kind of journey there. There are so many options, really, and you have to spend time making sure you've got a architecture that's going to lead to your business outcomes and what you're trying to get out of this, right? So we've got customers who this journey is a long journey, right? And if you're halfway down the road when you decide to make a change and you haven't anticipated or designed a solution that's flexible enough to accommodate those changes, you can kind of be locked in as well. So
yeah, I like that. It's the trick to these, if I'm going to paraphrase, is not just finding the right answer, which is transitioning to SAP HANA, but ensuring that you find the right questions, which are, what are all the things that your business is trying to do? Because candidly, it's likely changed since, you were the first SAP architecture. Actually, I would say if it hasn't changed, you should probably relook at your business, given everything we're seeing going on.
And maybe
given the amount of money customers are spending to do this upgrade, it's upon them to look at what additional business value they can get out of the new features that exist. So, like I said, lift and shift to new hardware, or pick up my database and import it into HANA and say, okay, I'm going to run my processes the same way. You still spend the same amount of money, right? I mean, you need to look at, if I'm going to spend money, what additional value can I really get out of this besides performance? I'm on the latest version of the code. What additional functions or business value are there for me? And I think, a lot of people spend time on that, right?
Yeah. And in addition, spinning from the idea to see this not like a technical migration, but more transformation, and to, like what you said, Scott, the whole company is still driving the car you're working on. And so this is important to get the whole company involved in this project, right? And just from the start off, like you really need the commitment from the whole company to go this way. And this will help a lot during the journey. When you have all the right people on board, everybody is involved in the project and understands that her or his department, maybe as a manager, will in the long term, hopefully gain something from this change and not just see, okay, we have to do something. So yeah, get everybody on board, get everybody behind this idea of going to HANA. And this is from my side, very crucial part. And then of course, building on this, get everybody involved. Again, I cannot stress it enough to have a proper test plan and to really do the test during the migration. This will help. This will help a lot to get the proper results in the end. Yeah.
And I think that is, as we sit here and we get kind of close on time, Joe, I think that's a great transition to as we think about closing thoughts. So I'm going to ask for both you guys to provide the closing thoughts. Joe, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Mike.
Yeah, sure. I still like the idea of Mike to see the migration not as a migration, but more as a transformation. And once you understand this, you can really unleash the potential of this move to not only have the HANA database in place, but really leverage everything the HANA database, maybe not everything, but to leverage a lot of things the HANA database will offer you. And this again leads to the points I already pointed out in the beginning, to get your priorities right in the beginning, and then going from there, build the right architecture, and then see what you can really gain from this transformation.
That's good. Mike?
So, I'd be remiss if I didn't, tell you why Netapp for SAP. And we've been doing this forever. And we have a lot of features that, quite frankly, when a basis administrator sees what we can do, they want that, right? So I think the challenge there, and there's a lot of options today. I mean, there are more options today than there were a year ago, and than there were 3 or 4 years ago. So the options available to you are increasing faster than people can figure out what they are and how to take advantage of them. So engaging in someone that can help you with that journey, ensuring that you've deployed your HANA solution, SAP HANA solution properly on, first select Netapp on top of our Netapp technologies. So going down that journey and finding someone who can get the most out of that, right? Is my number one closing thought, right? So,
yeah, and I think that's a great place to end. I mean, when you're engaging in something this large, it makes sense to try to unlock as much opportunity as you possibly can and find the right partner. And Netapp, Netapp has incredible innovation in this space. For those, for you out there. Netapp's pulled together a huge resource group so you can learn more. I highly recommend that you check all that out. I think we're quickly approaching time, so I'm going to transition over to some of the more common questions that we get. So let me pull these up real fast. So one of the big things that we see that common question is, what's the minimum time for a HANA migration project? Joe, you gave the case study. Why don't you kick us off, and then we'll see what Mike says.
Yeah, as soon as you throw out this number, somebody will be the next one and try to be faster. But we've done a couple of projects in roughly 3 months, but this is really, it's a very, very short time frame. And most of the time, those projects did not mean going to S4 HANA, but just Business Suite on HANA. So this, I would guess, are one of the shortest projects you will see. And yeah, from that on, really depends on what you want to achieve, right?
Yeah, I was really impressed when I saw 3 months. I was just, wow, I wouldn't have thought that you could get there. But by using cloud as your infrastructure, a lot of the delays that you would see, are gone. But a lot of our enterprise customers are investing a whole hell of a lot into this transition. And, for the most part, the minimum time would be measured in quarters. And, I see customers that have migration plans that are almost into the years, right? We just did one for a customer. They didn't go to, as you said, they didn't go all the way to S4, but they took a lot of databases to HANA, and it was about a 13 or 14 month transition, and they were going pretty quick, right? So I think that it really depends upon, your mileage may vary. It depends on how much you're trying to bite off with this this transition, right? So,
yeah, mileage may vary. I think that's very important, and to go in it, go into these projects with your eyes open, trying to make sure that you're going to do it right. And speaking of doing it right, I'm going to transition to the next question, which is, what are some of the data availability backup options for SAP HANA databases?
So,
Mike,
if you're running on top of ONTAP, then we're going to always go to our snapshots as the capability, and our integration with with plugins with HANA to back up the backups of the database. HANA is driving in memory, and we're backing up the logs so that we can if we have to reload from memory, we can replay logs and things like that. So mostly it's the snapshots. We've got a tool, Snap Center, that manages a lot of these snapshots, and it has integration with Llama and Studio and things like that. So those options are available in the cloud. There are backup service options that can be utilized, and if you want your backup copies in different locations with DR, from a Netapp standpoint, we can use snapshots to drive our mirroring capabilities. So, there are a lot of options, but almost all of them, from a Netapp standpoint, are going to be based on snapshots, right? So, Joe?
All right. Oh, Joe, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think Mike covered everything. Again, I just can say, once you are in this Netapp universe, there are so much tools which will really help the SAP administrator to really get hands on the storage and the backup. So I think Mike covered everything.
All right. One final question: is Azure Netapp Files HANA certified?
Proud to say, absolutely HANA certified, and it's one of the many certified options from Netapp available to you. So it allows our customers that were wanting to run their own solution, manage complete control into the cloud. It's giving them that capability. Prior to that, they could buy a service in the cloud, or they could run non-production landscapes in the cloud. So with ANF and our certification with HANA, there's even more possibilities. So how you can deploy your architecture, right?
All right. I think that's all we have from a question standpoint, and I think that's actually all we have from a time standpoint as well. I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Mike and Joe, our excellent speakers today, and I want to wish everyone, have a great rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.